You know how it goes. You decide, okay, this is the time I build that new habit. You
Yeah.
hear that like 3-week magic
The
number.
21-day myth, yeah.
Right. You throw yourself
Yeah.
into it, and then, well, life happens. Or, the motivation just kind of evaporates.
Yeah.
Turns out that whole 21-day thing isn't really the full picture, is it?
Not really, no. It's a really persistent myth, but fascinating research came out of University College London, actually digging into this. And what they found, well, it's a much wider range.
Right around.
We're talking anywhere from like 18 days on the quick end, all the way up to 254 days for a habit to become truly automatic. So over 8 months, potentially.
Oh, okay. 8 months. That really changes things.
Yeah.
So the key isn't speed.
Exactly. It's not about just white knuckling it for 3 weeks. It's about sustained effort, sure, but more importantly, using the right strategies.
Right. So if it's not just about willpower, what is the science? How do these habits actually stick? That's exactly what we want to get into today. We're aiming to give you a science-backed blueprint, something that doesn't just rely on gritting your teeth.
Precisely. Think of this deep dive as a roadmap to understanding your own brain's habit-forming process. Once you get how it works underneath, you can kind of, well, guide it better, make it less of a struggle for yourself.
Okay, let's pop the hood then.
Hmm.
How do habits actually get wired into our brains? It can't just be doing something over and over, right?
No, not quite. There are specific brain bits involved. Two key players we should talk about are the basal ganglia and the prefrontal cortex.
Okay.
So your prefrontal cortex, that's your conscious decision maker. The part that says, I should really go for that run, or, okay, focus on this work. It's like the CEO making deliberate plans. Takes effort.
Right, that feels like where all the hard work happens at the start of a new habit.
Exactly. Lots of mental energy. Now, the basal ganglia, that's different. It's more involved in automatic behaviors, things you do without really thinking, like tying your shoes, maybe driving a familiar route.
The autopilot.
Yeah, pretty much. So the goal when we're building a habit is to shift that new behavior from the effortful prefrontal cortex to the automatic basal ganglia.
And you run on autopilot eventually.
Got it. So how does that handover, that shift, actually happen neurologically?
Well, there are three main things working together here. First, you've probably heard of this, the cue routine reward loop. This is like the golden formula.
Like a cue routine reward.
Yeah, there's a trigger, the cue,
Yeah.
then the behavior itself, the routine, and finally the reward, the positive feedback your brain gets. So you need that whole loop working.
Okay, like see running shoes by the door, cue, go for a quick run routine, feel that runner's high reward.
Exactly. Perfect example. The second element is neuroplasticity. This is
Yeah.
huge. It's just the brain's amazing ability to rewire itself to form new connections.
So the brain isn't fixed. Not at all. Every time you repeat that cue routine reward cycle, the neural pathway for that habit gets, well, stronger, more established. You're literally building a better road in your brain for that behavior.
So practice actually physically changes your brain.
Yeah.
Wow. That's motivating in itself.
It really is. And the third piece is dopamine reinforcement. Dopamine, the feel-good chemical.
Uh-huh.
When you get that reward after the routine, your brain releases dopamine. And that dopamine signal essentially tells your brain, hey, that was good. Remember this. Let's do it again. It reinforces the whole loop.
Ah, okay, so the dopamine makes you crave repeating the action, strengthening the loop further.
Precisely. Understanding these bits, the basal ganglia versus prefrontal cortex, the loop, neuroplasticity, dopamine, it's key. It helps you work with your brain, not just against it through sheer force of will.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. We get the brain science now. But how do we
Yeah.
take that and actually use it? How do you build the habits you want in real life? That's the practical blueprint,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly. So based on all this research, we can boil it down to a 5-step blueprint. Let's start with step 1, the implementation intention.
Implementation intention.
Yeah.
Sounds formal, but important. What is it?
It's basically about making super specific if-then plans. And the research on this is pretty compelling. It suggests making these specific plans can boost your success rate by up to 300%.
300%. Wow. Okay, so what does that look like?
The format is really precise. When CUE, I will behavior at time and location. Very specific.
So not just I want to meditate more. It has to be concrete.
Exactly. Instead of I want to meditate, it becomes, say, when my alarm goes off, I will meditate for 5 minutes at 7 a.m. in my living room.
Yeah.
So we've got the cue, alarm, the behavior, meditate 5 minutes, the time, 7 a.m., and the location, living room.
Okay, yeah. That removes all the guesswork, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah.
when will I do it? Where?
Right. It preloads the decision. It helps your brain link that specific cue directly to the action. So maybe think about a habit you want to build right now. Try framing it as an implementation intention. What's the cue, the behavior, the time, the place?
Okay, I can see how that gives you a clear launch pad. What's step 2?
Step 2 is the 2-minute rule. This comes from behavior scientists at Stanford. The core idea is simple. Start ridiculously small. Way smaller than you think you need to.
Smaller, like forget the big ambitious plan.
For the very beginning, yes. Think about the absolute tiniest version of the habit. Want to read more? Just commit to reading 1 page. Want to exercise? Start by just putting on your workout clothes. That's it.
That almost feels too easy. Like, what's the point of just 1 page?
But the point isn't the page itself initially. The point is overcoming the activation energy. That initial hurdle to just start. It's often the hardest part. Making it take only 2 minutes lowers that barrier to practically 0. And once you've started, even that tiny bit, it's much easier to keep going sometimes. Plus, it starts building the identity. I'm the kind of person who reads daily, even if it's just a page. It builds momentum.
That makes sense. Less intimidating. So for your habit, how could you shrink it down to a 2-minute version to just get started? Okay, interesting. What's step 3?
Step 3 is habit stacking. This is a really neat trick. You anchor your new habit to an existing habit you already do automatically.
Like building a little habit chain.
Exactly. The formula is, after current habit, I will new habit. You're essentially piggybacking the new behavior onto an established neural pathway.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Let's say you already brush your teeth every morning without fail, and you want to start flossing. Your habit stack could be, after I brush my teeth in the morning, I will floss 1 tooth.
1 tooth. Again, super small.
Yep. Remember, the 2-minute rule principle applies here too. Start tiny. The key is linking the 2 actions in your brain. Brush teeth becomes the cue for floss 1 tooth. Later, you can floss more, but first, build the link.
So find those natural connection points in your existing routine. I like that. It leverages what's already there.
Okay, so think about a solid daily habit you have. What new tiny habit could you tack on immediately after it?
All right, step 4. This is about making it feel good. We call it the reward sandwich. We talked about dopamine, right? Your brain needs that reward signal, especially immediately after the behavior, to really lock it in.
A sandwich, so something before and after.
Exactly. The pre-reward is about visualization. Before you do the habit, take a moment to visualize the benefit, feel the positive outcome. This actually triggers a little dopamine release, motivating you to start.
So if the habit is, say, tidying the kitchen for 10 minutes, visualize how calm and nice it will feel after it's done.
Precisely.
Yep.
Then you do the habit. And the post-reward is crucial. Celebrate finishing. It doesn't have to be big. A mental high five saying done out loud, maybe listening to one song you love right after, something small and immediate that feels good.
So visualize benefit, pre-reward. Do the habit, celebrate completion, post-reward. That's the sandwich. Exactly. It helps create that craving loop we talked about. So for your habit, what's a small, immediate reward you can give yourself right after you finish? Something genuinely pleasant.
Okay, makes sense. And the final step, step 5.
Step 5 is the never miss twice rule. This tackles the reality that, well, life happens. You're going to miss a day sometimes.
Yeah, that's inevitable.
Totally. Research from the University of Toronto found something interesting. Missing once doesn't really derail long-term habit formation. But missing twice in a row, that dramatically increases the chance you'll just drop the habit altogether.
Okay, so the second miss is the dangerous one.
Right. So the rule is about compassionate consistency. Be kind to yourself if you miss a day. It happens. Acknowledge it. Maybe figure out why, but don't beat yourself up. However, be fiercely protective of not missing the next day. Get right back on track.
Forgive the first miss, but guard against the second.
Exactly. It prevents that what the hell effect, where one slip makes you feel like, oh, well, I've blown it, and you just give up completely. It builds resilience. A single miss is just data, not failure. The key is getting back to it immediately.
Okay, so that 5-step blueprint, implementation intention, 2-minute rule, habit stacking, reward sandwich, never miss twice. It's a really solid toolkit. But what about when life is just crazy? Super busy schedules, unexpected stuff. Are there any extra hacks for those times?
Oh, absolutely. Habit researchers have some great pro tips for navigating busy lives. One really powerful one is environment design.
Environment design,
Yeah.
like setting up your space.
Exactly. It's about consciously shaping your surroundings to make good habits easier and conversely, bad habits harder.
Yeah.
Friction is key here.
It makes sense. If the junk food is hidden away, you're less likely to grab it impulsively, right?
Precisely. Or the opposite, want to drink more water. Keep a full water bottle right on your desk in your line of sight. Trying to read before bed instead of scrolling. Maybe leave your phone charging overnight in another room. You're tweaking the cues.
So you're engineering your environment to nudge you in the right direction, making the good habit the path of least resistance. Clever. What else?
Another great one is temptation bundling. This is where you pair something you want to do with something you need to do, or a habit you're trying to build.
Like the classic example, only letting yourself watch your favorite Netflix show while you're on the exercise bike.
Exactly. You bundle the temptation, Netflix, with the desired habit, exercise. Think about a habit you find a bit tedious or are resisting. Now, think about something you genuinely enjoy listening to podcasts, catching up with a friend on the phone, having a specific treat. Can you link them?
Maybe only listen to that gripping true crime podcast while you're doing laundry or prepping meals for the week.
Perfect. You're using the enjoyable activity as an immediate reward or motivator for the less thrilling but necessary task. It makes the habit more attractive.
That's a smart way to use existing pleasures. Okay, one more pro tip.
One more, and this one's a bit deeper. Identity shift. This is about changing how you see yourself. Moving from, I'm trying to be someone who, to, I am someone who.
So it's more than just the action, it's about who you believe you are.
Exactly. When a habit becomes part of your identity, I'm a runner, I'm a healthy eater, I'm a reader, it becomes much more ingrained. It's not just something you do, it's part of who you are. When you face a choice, you ask, what would a runner, healthy eater, reader do?
That feels really powerful, but maybe takes longer to achieve.
It does. It develops over time through consistent action. But framing it that way reinforces the behavior on a much deeper level. Every time you complete the habit, you're casting a vote for that identity. It makes it more resilient long term.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot. The brain science, the 5 steps, these extra hacks. This is incredibly practical. So bringing it all together, what's the big call to action here?
Well, knowledge is great, but action is where the change happens, right? So our invitation to you, the listener, is to try a 66-day habit challenge.
66 days. Why that number specifically?
It comes back to that UCL research. While the average was around 66 days for a habit to feel automatic, remember the range was wide, 18 to 254 days. 66 days isn't magic, but it's a solid chunk of time, often enough to really feel a new habit starting to take root based on that average. It's a meaningful target.
Okay, a 66-day challenge. Sounds doable. What's the very first step for someone wanting to take this on?
Pick one thing, just one keystone habit. Don't try to overhaul everything at once. That's a recipe for overwhelm. Choose one specific habit you believe will have the biggest positive impact or ripple effect for you.
Focus is key. Got it.
Yeah.
And then apply the blueprint we discussed.
Exactly. Use all 5 steps. Craft that specific implementation intention. Start tiny with the 2-minute rule. Link it using habit stacking. Build in that reward sandwich. And crucially, embrace the never miss twice rule for resilience.
And I imagine tracking your progress daily would be pretty important too.
Oh, definitely. Just a simple check mark on a calendar or using a habit tracker app. It provides visual proof of your consistency, which is really motivating. It makes the progress tangible.
And a key point you mentioned earlier, the focus should really be on building the new positive habit, right? Not necessarily waging war on the old ones.
That's a great way to put it. Often, as you consistently practice and strengthen a positive new habit, it naturally starts to crowd out or replace the less desirable ones. Focus on building the good.
Right. So as we wrap up, any final thought to leave our listeners with as they consider this challenge?
Just this. Think about every time you perform even that tiny 2-minute version of your chosen habit. See it as casting a vote for the kind of person you want to become. You're literally rewiring your brain with each repetition. Understanding how your brain builds habits gives you the power to consciously direct that process. So the question isn't just, can you build better habits, but what kind of future self are you actively building, one small habit at a time?